All right, Steve Says Boom fans. Again, it's been a little while since I've had time to talk to you guys here on this YouTube channel. But I've been getting a lot of DMs sort of wanting me to talk a little bit more about why I left the Marvel Universe, the universe that we see today, the contemporary Marvel Universe. Basically, you know, many of you know that I do a Torpedo Comics claim sale at least once a week. And I have a certain specialty, which is usually silver and bronze, but I do 80s and I go up to 1990s. But when it comes to like 2000 and up, there is a lack of engagement on my part. And some people have been asking, like, what could cause such a fanatical follower of Marvel to not only just stop reading a couple of books, but all of them, the entire universe? That's quite drastic. Some of you may know that I actually got a late start reading comics. I was over in Africa for a couple of years and there was no comics over there. By the time I got back to England, there was a little, a gap in time. I first got exposed in 1980. A friend of mine showed me some comics and I was initially very intrigued, but lack of funds, I wasn't going to be buying any comics. In 1983, everything changed. In 1983, I went on a school trip, and it was a geography trip, and it was the most boring thing that you can possibly imagine, drawing, interlocking spurs. Google that if you want to know what it is. On that school coach that was taking us from location to location, I found some comics that someone had been reading and had left them on the back seat. A couple of them I wasn't really interested in. One of them was like Power Man and Iron Fist. I was like, okay, well, what is that? One of them was a Conan. One of them was a Rom. I had no idea. I was like, Rom, what a weird name that is. But I knew it was Rom Space Knight, issue 43 to be precise. And then I read the Conan. The Conan was issue 147. Nothing special. It's a single story. But it engaged me like nothing had engaged me. Suddenly all the geography, the stuff that I was supposed to be learning went out the window. I was like, oh my word, what is this? I got to investigate this Marvel comics in general. So by the spring of 1983, I had the bug, the comic bug, and it was bad. I then proceeded to search out like-minded individuals at school, and they gave me some hints. One guy whose name was Nick Kosh told me about the Overstreet Price Guide. Another kid named Richard Smith had the biggest comic collection in the school, and he showed me some comics, and by that just made me thirst for more. I was like, oh my God, I love this. Richard Smith actually showed me the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, Book of the Dead. And I was just like, wow, this is serious stuff. It wasn't, it seemed like the people who were in charge of this were taking it really seriously. And I thought, well, I should take it seriously too. I need to find out, I need to buy, I need to read. Hence, the madness began with a small title. Of course, I was a Hulk fanatic, as you guys know on my podcasts. Bloody hell, let's not get ahead of myself. Got my claim sales. I was a Hulk fanatic for a year. That's all I ever got was Hulk, 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 Hulk. And then Secret Wars came out. And suddenly I was exposed to all these brand new characters. I was exposed to Spider-Man and the X-Men, all those different villains. And I was like, well, you know what? I have to expand my readership of the Marvel Universe. Picked up Amazing, picked up Avengers, picked up X-Men. Even though, funnily enough, whenever I read the X-Men, I was always like, oh, is this it? Even back then, I was like, okay, well, everyone keeps telling me it's brilliant. It's the best. It's top of, it's a top seller. I must be reading it. So needless to say, the maniac Steve, the Marvel zombie Steve, the totally driven Steve, basically came alive like in 1984. By 1988, I was buying all the Marvels. I got through all the early 1990s. Just buying everything. I mean, buying stuff that I don't even, I've given away now. I used to read The Punisher. I don't know why I was reading that. I was just like, oh God. So that's not to say that I was a fanatic for everything. I had my style of material that appealed to me. I was never really into Master of Kung Fu. I was never into Ghost Rider. I didn't go anywhere near G.I. Joe because one, it wasn't Marvel Universe, and two, it was like, what in the hell is that? Same thing with Transformers. I was a Hulk, Avengers, Fantastic Four, Cosmic-y type guy. Daredevil was like, it's okay. Doctor Strange was like, okay. As long as he was in the Defenders, I liked it. So it wasn't like I was a fan of everything all the time, a fan of every writer. But the majority of it I liked. And so I read it, you know, especially if it even crossed over into something else. I was like, oh, I don't buy this. By the early 1990s, I was buying everything, including titles like Sleepwalker. I can't believe I bought that book. So the first cracks in the armor for me was 2099, the Marvel 2099 line. I was just like, oh my God, this is a lot of books. And it was just like, is this, at the time it was costing me a fortune each week. It was costing me a fortune. Marvel UK, okay. I hope some of you guys know what I'm talking about right now. It's a long time, but Marvel UK was a big thing for a while. And then, of course, the X-Men had the Age of Apocalypse, which I had no interest in whatsoever. And I must admit, my interest in the X-Men was waning drastically by 1994, 1995. I was just like, I was picking up the book, but I wasn't really enjoying it. But I had books that I followed religiously, and I just couldn't wait. I was dying for the next issue to come out. I loved that feeling. I still remember that feeling. Avengers, Fantastic Four, and Thor. All the way through into the 1990s, I was having a great read. And of course, Quasar. I love those books. Captain America. Iron Man, less so. Okay, it was all right. But I was fanatical. When the cosmic stuff exploded, Infinity Gauntlet, Silver Surfer, Warlock, I was there. I loved all of that. I was a fanatic about that. The first nail in the coffin for me was Heroes Reborn. They took a group of titles out of the Marvel Universe and put them in that Heroes Reborn universe and had the Image creators create this whole new Image-verse for Marvel. And I just thought it was abysmal. Abysmal. I was like, oh, so I read issue 1 of each series and then I dropped them completely. Atrocious. So that was the beginning of the shaking of my core as a Marvel zombie. I was like, oh, man, they took some of my main titles out of the Marvel Universe and I just had no interest in them. That was the break. And so if anyone ever asks me, when was the first time that you had this break when you realized you didn't need to read these books? It was Heroes Reborn. So the bigwigs and the creative people behind that whole idea, I don't know what they were planning, what they were trying in the short term, but in the long term, they destroyed my love of the Marvel Universe. And I'm being deadly serious. When the books came back in Heroes Return, it wasn't the same. The Fantastic Four, I just thought, oh, didn't like it. I just thought it was stupid. The Avengers came back with George Perez and Kurt Busiek. It just wasn't the same. Just couldn't get into it. And I tried. Iron Man was like, oh, okay. Captain America came back with Mark Waid, who had, you know, obviously been doing the book just before Heroes were born. But still, it was just like, wow, I'd done without those books for an entire year. Needless to say, I carried on. There were some books I did like. I did like the Thunderbolts. I read the Thunderbolts religiously. But generally speaking, things were beginning to look a little dark for me. And for the first time ever, I began to drop books from my subscription pull list. Unheard of. But it began to happen. I was sort of revived briefly with Avengers Forever. I was like, wow. Okay, now we're reading comics that I think have a creator at their peak. This is fantastic stuff. Okay, and I was like, whoa, the 2000s might be to recover and I might be okay. And things just sort of drifted away. Iron Man became just literally atrocious for me in the early 2000s. There was an issue where he gave up his secret identity to save a dog. Okay, you're out, you're done. Captain America was taken over, in 2002 by John Ray Neighbor, I think his name was, the writer, and it was just atrocious. So I was like, oh God. So I'd read the issue, but I just wouldn't be interested. Thor wasn't too bad, Dan Jurgens. The Fantastic Four with Scott Lobdell. And Chris Claremont took over, and oh God, no. So the nail was obviously in the coffin, but what significant event happened that actually closed the lid on the casket? It was a series called Original Sin. And the premise being someone comes along and shoots the Watcher and takes his eye. Shoots the Watcher. It wasn't like the Celestials attacked the Watcher. It wasn't like 1,000 Galactuses attacked the Watcher. Just a regular person with a gun shooting the Watcher, which proved to me that the person writing the book had no idea about what he was doing, had no historical context, and was just writing this stupid story. Started off on very shaky grounds, in my opinion, and it obliterated the last vestiges of any admiration that I had for the Marvel Universe at that time. So I think that came out in 2005, 2006, I think, something like that. After that, the writing was on the wall. I read a couple more bits and pieces, but then quite in short order, I stopped reading all basic modern books. I've tried a couple since then. But I do have problems with the way modern books are written. I will do another post on that because that's quite long and intricate. But I just wanted to clear up a couple of things today while I had the time, because I never had the time, of course, on a claim sale, to waffle on this long during the claim sale. Just in case you guys are sort of like, okay, where is he coming from? What happened to him? Why did he turn away? So I only have a limited amount of time here, of course. I can't keep talking for 9 hours, because who would want me to be talking for 9 hours? But hopefully I answer some questions for you there. Boom!